Hey students, Miss Tron here. We're going to be doing a piece of art based on Van Gogh's sunflowers. So we're really going to be looking at some of the ways he designs his work. He has some really interesting lines and shapes he uses to create his sunflowers. Van Gogh's work is a lot about line as well. So we will be talking about that. Now, let me come back here to the hover cam. So wanted to talk about that a little bit. We're going to be learning a little bit about Van Gogh today and how he creates his work. So what we just did is we understood the hallmarks of an artist's style. And we will be working with line today to help us create a vase of flowers. And I am actually going to be using something called an analogous color scheme. Analogous are three colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, and green and yellow and orange are next to each other. Yesterday I started drawing with my green colored pencil, and it just looked so great. I wanted to do it for you all as well today. And then we'll be adding some of our analogous colors in, as well as some brown. That's a neutral color we're going to be using. So here I go. What I want you to do right now is to get your paper out and place it vertically in front of you. And let me just autofocus this again. And then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go like this, and hopefully that'll work out on our work today. So very first thing you're going to do, at the top of your paper, you will just kind of straighten this up as well. Okay, that's a little bit better. At the top of your paper, go ahead and write your name. Now today you can work in pencil or in, really got to get this a little bit more focused. Maybe if I focus it on my name it'll focus better. Sorry friends, sometimes getting it just right can be difficult. Aha! I think we finally have it focused how I need it. Yes. Okay, so moving on. You now have your name at the top of your paper. About halfway down, we want to draw our vase. Now your vase can come in many different kinds of shapes for your sunflower pot. It could be a trapezoid with a rectangle on top. It could be curvy with a lip. It could be something like that. What I'm going to do on mine is I'm going to kind of do a curved pot. So I'm going to start by curving a line on this side. And then I'm going to curve a line on this side for my pot. You don't have to, if you don't feel comfortable going straight to the green colored pencil, you don't have to. You can just work in pencil if that's more like what you want to do. I just noticed yesterday when I was working with the green colored pencil, I was really happy with how it started to turn out. Now, at the bottom of the pot, I'm going to do a little curved line down, and at the top of the pot, I'm going to do the same. Now, if you noticed in the art, there was another curved line about halfway down, or maybe even 1/3 of the way down, and Vincent Van Gogh signed his name there. You can do that if you'd like to. If you know how to write cursive, or if you have a fun font, you can go ahead and write your name down here. We're signing our art because we think it's awesome. We're putting it out there to see for everyone. So that's one way we're kind of making our art a little bit like Vincent's. Okay. So now we're going to go on to our flowers. Each of the flowers is going to have either a circular or an oval in the center, and we're just going to place these around. So, you know, some could be big, some could be smaller. It's really up to you. I'm going to have this one kind of on its side like this. One of the flowers in Van Gogh's sunflowers, the head of the flower was pointed in this direction, so it's kind of like we're getting a side view of the center of the flower. And I think I'm going to add in one more right up here. Okay, now there's a few ways that you can do the petals on your sunflowers. You could very simply do a U shape or an oval touching the circle. So that's one way to do it. So if I'm going around here, I could just do a U shape around and try to repeat it over and over again. Almost like when we were doing the mandalas, you know, trying to keep it going around. You can even turn your paper if you want to. Sometimes that's easier to, you know, make them similar, or you don't have to. That's really up to you. I'm just going to go around. And I just really liked how the green showed up. You'll see as we move along that the value is kind of nice. Now, another thing that I really liked about some of those flowers is they had very funky, unusual petals going on. We might do that too. But one other way you could make a petal if you wanted to, you can keep doing this if you're more secure with just the U's around. What about a curve to a point, like this, kind of like a flame? So curve it to a point, curve it back. Curve it to a point, curve it back. So this is another way to make a flower. Like I said though, if you don't feel comfortable doing this level of difficulty, you can go back to doing something like an oval or a U around. So now I'm just going to keep going around, and I can turn my paper as I work if I want to. And you're going to notice as you get closer to some of these other flowers that some of what we're going to do is going to be overlapping, and we need to start thinking about that. Okay, so on this one, what I want to do is I am going to do some large kind of diamonds going around it. But I want to be aware of something. When I come over here, I want to make it look like the diamonds are going underneath this flower to make it realistic. Because we see all of this flower, that means that this flower we're only going to see part of it. So I'm going to just go around and do some large diamonds all the way around. Actually, I'm going to move my paint out of the way for now. I'm just going to kind of go through. By the way, if I'm moving too fast, you can always just slow down or repeat part of the video. That's perfectly fine. So this is kind of a more unusual looking flower, but as I'm coming over here, you're going to notice part of this flower is going to have to go behind the other flower. So I need to make sure that I'm kind of imagining where the line is, but not drawing it on top of the other flower. Now, there was one really wild looking flower in Van Gogh's work that had kind of like these very stylized petals. And I don't know if you want to do this. You might think it looks a little bit too weird, but it kind of just was very odd. If this is too hard for you though, you can erase it or maybe even go back to one of the ones that's easier. This is just, I don't know, it's kind of more gestural drawing it, so kind of a little bit unusual. And once again, this flower is in the front, so I want to make it look like this one's going behind it. For this one over here, what I'm going to do is I want this flower. Now, if this is too hard for you, just do a basic circle, but I want this flower to look as if it's going in that direction. So I'm going to see a lot of these petals going around because I see this side. But over here, I'm only going to just see a little bit of them. I'm going to see like kind of part of them going back behind like this a little bit. So I'll see part of them. It's kind of as if the stem is coming back. Okay, now I have all of my flowers. I need to put in some stems. And stems can be straight. They can just be two parallel lines together. For instance, if I'm bringing a stem down from this, I'll draw a line and then bring another line behind it. For this one, I'm noticing that this flower is kind of twisting down like this. So as I'm bringing those two parallel lines down, when I get to another flower petal, I'm making the stem go behind it. Let's see. And you can, some sunflowers have very thick stems as well. So I'm going to bring this down like this and maybe make a, like a little leaf coming off of it. Now this one back here, I might need to, so I'm bringing my lines down for my stem. I just want to remember is going behind this other flower. So I kind of want to, as I draw the stem down, I kind of want to imagine out where it goes. Now some of the flowers at the top, you might not even see the stems at all. And so this one, I might not even see it at all till it gets to here. Okay. So I've got my flowers. I need to add a table here, and we're going to use overlapping. The flowers are going to come, and the vase is at the front, and the back of the table is behind it. So what I'm going to create a horizon line. I'm going to go over here, and I am just going to draw a line behind the flowers. Now, one thing I started to do on my other drawing is I really got into some different lines that can create value. Remember, the other time you watched one of the pre-recorded videos, we said value can give you a little bit of form or shape in your art, and value comes from light to dark. So what I'm going to do over here, and I'm just going to kind of have fun with this. By the way, if you don't want to go back in with a colored pencil before you paint, you don't have to. That's just something I want to do. So I'm going to come through, and I'm just going to start darkest on this side, and I'm just going to kind of widen my lines as I go to the other side, so it kind of has a sense of value there. I also want to go through, and I'm going to use a diagonal line here, starting kind of dark on this side, closest to the edge, and just kind of lightening it up as I go. Just very slowly, using less pressure with my pencil to kind of make it look as if it's three-dimensional. And I can also go back in and use some of these colored pencils if I want to. And of course, if you're just working with a pencil, you can, you don't have to work with a colored pencil. You could just work with a marker or something else. So now I kind of want to add a shadow here on this side. So I'm going to kind of draw a line up like this, and I'm just going to add a shadow behind my vase. So it's kind of like a diagonal line up, and then I'm just adding a little shadow here. It's kind of as if today our light source is over here, okay? So if our light is shining here and this object is round, obviously there's going to be a shadow or a darker side here and a shadow behind. Following that same principle, if I want to, I can go around and maybe darken the right side of the stems a little bit. That's something I can do if I'd like to. But you don't have to. If that's too hard for you, don't worry about it. I want to go in and I want to add a little bit more texture for the center of the flower. Sometimes those are a little bumpy. So I'm going to go through and kind of, in each one of these I'm going to use a different kind of texture. I think here I'm going to do some stippling or some dots down, make it look like seeds all over the center. Maybe I can even go like this if it's not darkening very well. I could, I don't know, over here, I might do a center within a center. That's something I could try. So a circle, and another circle. I could just simply cross-hatch. Cross-hatching is when I do lines in one direction and then in the opposite direction. Or I could just maybe swirl around like this. So there's lots of wonderful things you can do. Over here, I think I'm going to go through and just kind of get a little Van Gogh with it and kind of make these flowers look a little odd maybe. Maybe that's what I'm doing today. I think I also want to go in on some of these maybe and just add a little bit of my other colored pencil. And this is an option if you want to just work with those. Remember we said green, yellow, and orange and brown. If you want to use those together, it's going to be pretty great, but you don't have to. It's your choice. So basically I'm putting down this orange because if I paint over it with a different color, it's going to have sort of a different appearance. So maybe I'll do that over here on this flower too. I know I'm working a little quickly today, but you can always slow down and work a little bit more slowly than me if that's what you want to do. Please don't think you have to go at the same speed as me. You can work as slowly or as quickly as you need to. So I'm just going to bring a little yellow in here. And you know, you don't have to paint. You could just work with the colored pencils if you want to. Alright, so now I think what I want to do in the background, I am going to go through with the brown. Well, maybe, actually I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through with the orange and just kind of create some diagonal lines in the background. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to paint over it with a different color, so it will just kind of give some variety to the colors that I'm working with. So I'm trying to get into all these parts of the background. Then I'm going to go over here a little bit. I'm trying to find all those little background places if I can. Usually in the classroom I say be very careful if you're drawing or painting over your name, because then sometimes your teacher cannot read your name. Sorry I'm working a little quickly today, but I want to be able to finish this up. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with some paint. And I am going to just start picking colors to kind of lightly paint over some of the colored pencil. Now, if you use just a little bit of paint, you'll be able to see that colored pencil underneath it. Of course, you don't have to use the color scheme that I'm using. You could do something else. I'm just using this because that's what I want to do. Okay. I think I'll make the center of the flower brown. That's a pretty standard sunflower color. I think maybe I'll do that with all the sunflowers. Kind of paint them in. Now, as you're painting, you can also add more value if you want to. That's something you can do. And you could use colored pencil on this. You could use crayon. You could just work with regular pencil. You could use pastel. It's really up to you. Okay, now I'm going to go in with some of my yellow over these flowers here. And sorry if I'm rushing a little bit. I'm trying to make this video between classes at my other school, so that's why I'm kind of rushing a little bit. I hope you take more time than me. Yours will be really, really great. But Miss Trump kind of has to hurry along today. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of paint in these little petals a bit. When you're working, you may even be able to stay a little bit, use a little bit better craftsmanship than me. You know, in art, craftsmanship means just basically working neatly and nicely and doing your best with that. Okay, so now I'm going to do some orange up here in this diamond type flower. In fact, I might even just color all these little bits in. And down here, I'm going to maybe use a little more orange on this one too, this flower. Sometimes watercolor is a little bit harder to control, but the reason I use it for my online lessons is it's fairly inexpensive. You can get the little box of these pretty inexpensively, so that's why I use it. In fact, I'm going to use less water on these for the petals because I really want that. Remember how we added that shadow to the side? I really want that to shine through. So if I just go through and use some watery little bits like this, then I think I may have actually painted the wrong side on this one. Oh well. Now, for my vase, I noticed in the art that one half of the vase was one color and one half was another color. So I'm going to go in with my yellow now, and look how if I paint lightly, wow, you can still see how we added value to the side over there. Looks pretty nifty. And then down here at the bottom, I guess I'll go through with some orange. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the table brown. Remember, paint lightly over your little signature on the vase. And now for my table, I'm going to make the table brown. One trick to painting in pretty quickly is to use the side of your brush. In fact, I probably should have gotten maybe even a bigger brush for some of the large areas as I was working on this, but I'm just going to try to go through really quickly and paint it in. But if you do work with those yellows and the browns and the oranges and the yellow, the green, the orange, and the brown, it's a really nice color scheme together, having those three analogous colors and then the neutral. And then really quickly, let's see, what am I going to do last? I should add a little more brown, maybe even a little more brown on this side, because this is supposed to be in shadow over here. This is the lighter side. I think what I'm going to do is a technique I like to do. It's a dry brush technique. I'm going to point my brush so it's just a little bit, it's not even barely damp. But one little technique I like to do is to take my brush into the paint and kind of just do some little markings like this. This is a technique you can try. Some kids like it, some kids don't, but if you want to do it, it can be kind of fun to kind of just lightly do a detail all over the back. This is called dry brush, and notice I'm kind of holding it like a chopstick, going like this all over the background. And I don't know, it might not turn out exactly how I want it to, but it's kind of fun too. Once again, I'm sorry I hurried so much. I hope you take more time on yours. I don't know, those lines in the background might be a little bit more overpowering than you would like, but now my art is finished. Maybe, on second thought, you might want to do the lines, not unless you feel really super confident. Maybe if you want to try that dry brush technique, try it on a piece of paper before you paint. Last but not least, Twin Lakes students, please remember when you're done with your art to send a photo of your work to my email address. Twin Lakes students, thanks so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing your art. Have a wonderful day.